First of all, thank you so much, all of you, for showing up today. This is the agenda for this evening. As I said, I will start with a couple of words about what FemGems Club is, how it all started, why we're doing it. Then we're going to have our first keynote speaker, Cynthia Barcomi, and our second keynote speaker, Alexandra. I'm not sure if I can pronounce the Greek part of the name correctly, but I'll let you do this and teach me once again. Then we have Ekaterina and Regina. So we have four super inspiring women entrepreneurs who are going to share their experience, their lessons, and how they got into entrepreneurship, and what was their journey like so far. And after that, we're going to have short lightning intro session with the FemGems Club members. And then we can have a little bit of a meet and mingle to get to know each other. All right, so here's a reason why FemGems Club exists. The number of female founders in a startup hub like Berlin is 9% in the year of 2020. And that is how it looks like in other relevant startup hubs around the world. Yeah, being a female founder, you're something rare. And this is also where our name comes from, because gems are rare, shining, and impressive. And so are all of the women entrepreneurs in our community. So increasing the number of female entrepreneurs is essentially the mission FemGems is after. And the first thing we did towards this mission was to launch FemGems podcast, and where we talk to relatable role models in the entrepreneurial space, because this is the first step, you know, seeing someone you can identify with, doing the thing you dream of in order to believe that you can do it yourself too. So that was 2018, and that was the first podcast in Europe to feature female startup founders. And since then, we've been building a brand and a community in the space that has gotten a lot of resonance across continents. We've been receiving messages from literally all over the world, from women and men who were simply so inspired by the fact that they could listen to really relatable and in-depth conversations about, you know, the ups and downs, the challenges, the rewards, and the fears and the insecurities of women who are trying to build their own business. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of events, primarily in Berlin, in the last 2 years, and talking to many female founders. For the podcast, we found a critical issue in this space that is a key factor for the low number of female founders, and that is the lack of networks that effectively support and mentor women entrepreneurs, which is why we launched FemGems Club on the 1st of September. And today, on the 1st of October, we have the second batch of female founders joining us. It is a result-driven support system that is designed to help you progress on your goals faster. And as a member of FemGems Club, you become part of a really carefully curated community of inspiring entrepreneurs. And you're being matched to different ones on a bi-weekly basis. You're receiving first-hand advice from the person who is, you know, who has experience in exactly what you're tackling right now. And that is our USP, as well as the fact that we're a subscription-based membership. So it's not like a program that is, you know, 3 months or 6 months, but you can join and stay for as long as you feel like you need the support. All right, enough of talking about FemGems Club, because I cannot wait for Cynthia to inspire you. And before that, I'm going to shortly introduce her. Cynthia is a dancer, an author, an entrepreneur, a mother of 4, and she's been running her own business for 26 years now. And if you're living in Germany, you might have seen her on TV, or maybe you've watched her TED Talk, which in fact was what hugely inspired me and influenced me, because I had the chance to see it live in Berlin. And that was when I invited her to be on our podcast. She's also published 8 books and produces her own kitchenware, and I will now let her inspire you with her endless enthusiasm. Cynthia, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dora. So welcome here this evening. I'm sitting in my office here at home. I mean, I feel like everything you said, it makes me sound like a freak. It really is true. I feel like as a woman, when you do a lot, you somehow are just such a minority. And I agree with Dora that we need to change that. I may think my own story. I studied philosophy and theater in New York at Columbia University. I moved to Berlin in the mid-'80s. After my second daughter was born, I decided I wanted to do something else, and I started roasting coffee beans. That was like my deal. And I also felt like I really wanted to have a project that was separate from my family, and it was just kind of separate from everything and everyone, because I didn't want to be reduced to just a wife and a mother. That was my thing. And I also feel like, for me, I went to an all-girls boarding school that made me believe, or it taught me that I could do anything. You know, I just need to I needed to work through it. And, you know, maybe I wasn't the smartest person, maybe I wasn't the best at what I was doing, but I was going to make it happen because I was extremely committed. And so in 1994, yes, I opened my first shop in Kreuzberg. That was a coffee roastery and a bakery. In 97, I opened my second shop in Mitte, which was a big deli, huge. I just recently closed my shop in Mitte because of COVID. And I think it's really been an adventure. And I think especially for women, you know, whether you are just starting out or whether you've been around for a long time doing what you're doing or setting new goals for yourself, I really feel that one of the most important things is having a clear head. You know, I feel like because women in general, I'm going to make like the sweeping generalizations right now, but in general, women are so good at multitasking, and we, you know, we always have the periphery. We have this, sometimes I feel like people think I have eyes in the back of my head, which of course I don't, but I also sometimes feel like I have my eyes in the back of my head because I'm so aware of everything that's going around me. And I think what can happen for women or for people who are like that is that there's so much interference, it's really hard to focus on just like one thing or focus on the next thing because you have so many things coming at you in so many ways. And I've noticed that the person who I'm a mentor to, it's interesting because I think one of the things that you definitely do struggle with in the beginning is how do I set priorities? Everything seems like it's important, but ultimately not everything is equally important. And I feel like what can happen is that it's easy to sort of get paralyzed and be like, I don't know what to do next. And I think that oftentimes it doesn't really matter what you do, that it's just a matter of doing whatever something. Because after that step, it will lead you to the next step and the next step and the next step. And I also feel like, especially, you know, I know for me in the beginning, I was roasting coffee beans, which I had actually never done before. And I decided I was going to bake a bit because I thought, well, you know, Europeans always think that Americans have no culture and we have no food culture, and that's just ridiculous. And of course we do, and it's amazing and it's delicious. So I started baking, and you know, I had been working 7 days a week alone in the kitchen. I thought this is not going to be sustainable for long. The bottom line is that if you know, being your own boss or having your own business or starting your own business, it isn't necessarily the right thing for everyone. It just isn't. You know, it's not about having a good idea. Everybody can have a good idea. It's not that hard. But it's really about figuring out what is my idea, and how do I make it, how do I transport that, how do I communicate it, and what things are relevant and what things are a great idea but don't really pertain to what I'm doing, to keep it like streamlined, just the straight and narrow, to be really clear. The clearer you are, the clearer you are going to communicate whatever you want to do to whomever, to your audience. And, you know, I'm guessing whether it's in, you know, I mean, I don't even know if it's in computer, or if it's in music, or if it's in the arts, or if it's in science, or whatever it is, you know, you have to have an audience. You have to have someone who's somehow interested in what you're doing. And so it's also a process of building that up, but you have to stay strong. And you have to stay strong when sometimes, you know, you don't always feel strong. I mean, honestly, sometimes you really, you know, you have your doubts. Unfortunately, you know, you have your self-doubts. And I think it's important not to give into it. And I know that I've often had the feeling that I have like sort of like the devil sitting on one shoulder and a little angel sitting on the other shoulder. And the devil, I have this less now, but I definitely had this in the beginning. The devil was just like, you have no idea what you're doing. And it's only a matter of time until everyone realizes it. And, you know, you can't even open the door and go into your kitchen. And, you know, I mean, it's thoughts like these, they can really screw you up. They can really ruin you. It's like I was having this talk today with my daughter who was like, you know, she just got this new dog and she was just like, I just keep on telling myself, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I was like, you need to say to yourself, I can do it. You need to just literally change that mantra in your head. And let me tell you, if you can believe you believe you can do it, or at least you believe you can try and do it, that's half the battle. It really is. And so the story goes for me of needing to believe I could do it, and also certainly setting goals for myself and setting goals behind the goals, behind the goals, behind the goals, so that sometimes I really felt like almost like a donkey with sort of like a carrot out in front of me, and I was always running after this carrot, and I was actually never going to get it, but I still ran after it. And I think to a certain extent, I do still feel like that. You have to be your motivating factor, best friend, and you also have to be able to be constructive with yourself. You have to be critical of what you do and how you do it. It's really important. You know, not everyone is going to be honest with you for many, many, many different reasons. But I think that you can be honest with yourself. And I think it's really important that you know where you're at, you know what your strengths are, you know what your weaknesses are. If you have certain weaknesses, embrace them. And if those are the things, you know, people think you have your own business, you know, you can just do whatever you want. Like, you don't have to do all the stuff that you're not good at. And that is just not true. You have to do, you know, you have to do a lot of different things that you maybe don't enjoy doing or you don't feel like you're good at doing. And I have also learned through the years that those are the things that I do first. Because if I'm tired or if I'm run down, and then I have to do something that I don't do very well, or that I don't maybe understand very well, or that I feel unstable about doing, it doesn't help me at all. So I guess my point is in order to be successful in your own business, in order to even take that huge risk of opening up the door and going out there and going after what you want, you do have to somehow believe in yourself. You really have to be your own best friend. And I think the amount of time that some people spend looking at what other people are doing and, you know, reading the comments about what people think about them. And, you know, it's all like one huge, big, fat distraction. So I don't really play into that. You know, I feel like I know when I'm doing a good job. And if I feel like I haven't done a good job, then I work at it until I have done a good job. And I feel like the standards that I have for myself, the standards that I have set for myself, the bar is really high for me, and it needs to be high. Otherwise, I don't need to do it. That's how I feel. The flip side to that is being like a neurotic overachiever, which is like a very difficult way to live a life, and I don't feel that I do that anymore. But I do feel that you know, you have to man muss sich behaupten, you say in German, you know. And I feel like at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, it is a white man's world. I feel like we all kind of know that. And I feel like I talk to some women and they're really stuck on that, you know. It's like this mental centrifuge. And I feel like it's almost like a record stuck in a groove. And I think it's really important for women to make sure that they're not doing that. And I think if you are doing that, then probably having your own business is going to be a very challenging thing to do. It might not be the best thing to do. It might not be the right thing to do. And I also don't feel like having your own business is, necessarily has to be the right thing for everyone. But I do feel that in trying it, you'll realize pretty quickly if you feel like you're up to the challenges or if you feel like you're not, which is also okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Actually, if I may take a few words to say, Cynthia, firstly, I love your cafe. I was so disappointed earlier in the year when I walked past the Mitte one and I saw the poster that you guys are closing. Yeah. Secondly, your New York cheesecake is to die for. So everyone that's on the call, go and freaking try her New York cheesecake because it's badass.
Or bake it yourself, right? It's true. No, I have it in one of my books. Yeah.
I'm going to stay away from baking because that's not my expertise, but I kind of know where else I can do things. And I think it's very empowering, some of the points that you mentioned. What stuck with me is basically that we have this, we are a victim of the imposter syndrome, right? But here's the thing, it doesn't matter. Whatever is your weakness, you turn it around and make it your competitive edge. And I absolutely love that. And I've been believing that in the last 2 months, there's been so much self-growth in myself there. And secondly, the point about it's a man's world, and you're right. And the way to get into a man's world is to befriend the nice ones that will help you get there. So
I don't know, I really feel like, look, I know that there are a lot of women who get like super tough. You know what I mean? They got like super tough and they have like their armor on, they're gonna go out there. And like for me, like, wow, I mean, I like wearing a pink dress, you know what I mean? Like I like wearing dresses. I like being super feminine. And I feel like I really embrace it, I embrace being really feminine. I embrace having my family. I embrace all of it. And I also embrace the fact that I can be a ball breaker. And I think that as a woman, you have to be willing to be an asshole. And that's a big problem. That's something I hear time and again. Women, like even successful women who are working with men and they're beautiful women, who get ever so slightly belittled just because they're beautiful and because, there are men who tend to underestimate beautiful women. It happens. And I feel like it's important that sometimes you have to be an asshole. You only have to maybe once, but I just had so many conversations with women where I'm like, it isn't necessarily about people liking you, it's about people respecting you. And respect is just like, it is something that it's a give and take. So it's like any relationship, and really the basis of any relationship is respect, whether it's a working relationship or whether it's a marriage or whether it's, whatever it is, there has to be mutual respect there. And sometimes, people will give it to you because you deserve it. And sometimes you have to absolutely demand it from people. You have to be willing to be an asshole. And then, but most of the time not, because it's not a nice thing to do, but you got to be willing to do it.
I mean, there's a saying in the Indian culture, if you can't get the butter out with a straight finger, you got to twist it.
Yeah. I think it's true. And I mean, I just think it's like, I feel like, I had that in the beginning, like every time I had to have like some kind of a talk with the staff, I feel like my voice would rise. I just felt like I sounded like Minnie Mouse. It was just awful. I just felt like I was just like, I can't even listen to myself. And then I was just like, all right, I just feel like, I did not have a mentor. I didn't. And so I felt like I had to it was really the blind leading the blind. I was my own mentor, and I had no experience. So I was like, yeah, okay, well, I guess we're just going to do this somehow, right? And it was, I feel like a lot of it was really painful, like needing to learn or learning what I needed to learn by doing it, was really, it was tough, and at the same time, I had to make sure that I was producing what I needed to produce in a way that was up to my standards. So, I think it was like, it was kind of like, it was a tough school. It was a tough way of learning, but I feel like I did it. And I think that's one reason why I like to be involved in FemGems, because I feel like it's really important for women to also invest in other women. And even if it's just being a cheerleader, like I don't know a lot about the other businesses that women or other people are trying to start up, but I do know the psychology that you need to have in your head about sort of beating the odds and about staying in the game, about staying in the ring, about being like, all right, okay, if that wasn't right, then let me try this, or let me try this. Or sometimes being like, I'm done. I'm just done here. Like it's not about, persistency always. Sometimes it's about drawing a line. And, and I definitely felt that way about the deli. Like that was a really hard decision to make. That was a strange decision to make because I wasn't actually in a crisis with it yet at all. We closed in the middle of March because of COVID. And then, I was not able to negotiate what I would have needed to negotiate with the owner of the building. And I was just like, I'm done. Like, I'm just done. And I'm going to find a way to gracefully exit this. And, I was held to my contract like anyone. It wasn't like, okay, you signed this contract when there was no pandemic, and now that there's a pandemic and you can't actually open. So, it was really hard, but I was like, hey, I signed a contract. I'm going to keep my contract. I'm going to honor my contract, and I'm done. And it was it was hard, but I have to say, I thank God every day that I was able to make that decision. That, sometimes you have to make decisions, although you aren't in the situation yet. Like sometimes you're forced to make a decision because you're in a crisis. You're in crisis mode and like, you have to make a decision. And I was just like, wow, I do not need the crisis. I don't need to go there. I can see it coming. I see it on the horizon. I'm going to make a decision and I'm going to plan everything. Because the problem is that, especially in the food business, if I had opened up again and it didn't go well, no one's going to save me. Like, we didn't qualify for any assistance from the government or anything because I have too many employees. So it was one of those things where I was like, gee, wow, I think I better not do this. I think I'm done. And it's so strange because the last thing of the TED Talk, as Dora knows, because she listened to the TED Talk, was, and the deli's been there for 23 years. And I often think it would be an interesting prologue to it, but it's not there anymore. It's like, but that's what happens, it's like you can plan a lot of things, and a lot of things you can influence and you can really shape and get exactly the way you want. But lots of times it's about acting and reacting. It's about reacting to different things. And you have to be able to kind of improvise sometimes.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I think we're running a little bit over time. Do we have one more question? Final question for Cynthia?
I just have one tiny, it's not a question again, it's a tiny comment here into Cynthia. Thank you very much, Cynthia, because it's exactly what I thought, is the fact that we have so many self-doubt. So I had the feeling of being accompanied is such, it's so empowering for me. I'm starting, I never done anything like this, I promise, ever, as I was talking to a friend of mine that is sitting to me, I said at the beginning of this journey, there were a lot of question marks, but like crazy amount of question marks. I could not sleep thinking about this and that, and now the question marks are being resolved. There are other question marks on the journey, but what I really try to do on a daily basis is to force myself to continue.
Yes.
Because I am my worst enemy, let's say. And
yes.
I in my brand, if there is any opportunity one day I will talk about my brand, but my brand is for women, and it's because I don't know any woman that is not hard on herself. not even one.
Totally.
And now, yeah, that is a that is a science. I don't know, but it's but the self-doubt that you have on a daily basis is incredible. So
It's
this is
insane.
really good for me to feel accompanied on the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to acknowledge self-doubt and then you have to move beyond it. You have to move beyond it on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly
Oh
basis.
yeah.
You just have to move beyond it. And if you can't move beyond it, no one else is going to help you. Like
You know
no
what,
one,
guys and guys don't do that. I don't know
no,
why, I don't know how, but they don't. They just
they just
don't. They
don't
don't
because,
doubt on themselves.
well, I think lots of times because they're so insecure that they overcompensate by being like, you know, arrogant and being like, I can do this, I can do anything.
Maybe.
On the inside, they're kind of like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I think for women, they just cave into that. And I really feel like it's important to acknowledge that it's there. It's important to acknowledge that we have self-doubt, that we also, but that we can also prove to ourselves this self-doubt is self-created. It's not founded on anything. And we need to let it go. But letting go,
I don't
but
let it go.
yeah,
You know what I do? Do you know what is my strategy to myself? Is like, if there is self-doubt, then I'm going to push. You
that's
know,
right.
you know what I mean? Because there is the comfort zone is I mean, I'm far away of my comfort zone already, and I feel really disgustingly uncomfortable. But that's what that's what it keeps me there. You know, keeps
That's
me
right.
pushing, 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 pushing.
But the more you do that, the more you just peel off these layers of feeling uncomfortable.
I
Because
hope you're right.
no, it's true. I mean, look, it's like, you know, I've done a lot of just crazy like live TV. And, you know, it's just, you have to be where you are. You really have to be where you are in so many different ways. I mean, I also feel like when you're starting out your business, you know, it's important to have goals. It's important to have dreams. It's important to have all of that. It's also really important to just be right where you are. And if you're at the beginning, then by God, you're at the beginning. The beginning is the beginning. That's the way it is. The beginning is difficult. It sucks sometimes. It's super exciting. It's really tiring. It's all these different things and more. But that's where you're at. And if you're living in the past or you're living in the future, if you're not exactly where you are, it's really hard to react because you're not really there. And I do believe that if you are where you are where you're at, you will notice quicker and faster when things don't feel right. Because when things don't feel right, probably they're not right. And that means you need to address that. You know, it's just the way it is. Like things are not going to change unless you change them. Things aren't going to get better unless you work on it. And, you know, like I enjoy working hard. I do. But I also know that I need to balance that out. Because anybody who works too much or who plays too much or does anything too much, you know, you just need to balance it out. And that happens, you know, more or less on a daily basis. Sometimes you just have to give more. That's the way it is. So, Dora, I will let you continue your evening. I'm sorry that I cannot partake in it. I have to go do, the whole theme tomorrow is it's breakfast. It's on the, is that eines Frühstücksfernsehen? So it's all about Streusel. So I was like, really? So now I'm working through all my Streusel. And I have lots of Streusel to do. Yes.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Listen, you're amazing. I commend you for starting FemGems. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I am extremely happy to be involved in it. Really, you're doing a great job.
It's an honor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And if anybody wants to hear more from Cynthia, go watch her TED Talk. Go listen to her podcast episode that is longer than the TED Talk. And if you want to get mentored by Cynthia, you might get matched to her if you join FemGems Club or if you're already in it.
I'm there.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a nice evening.
You too. Good luck tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.